Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this.
Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 337 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 65 of A Dance with Dragons, which is Cersei 2.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. Unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Well, then if you listen to that spoiler episode, we are going to spoil things for you. But regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. But you have got a litany of items down here in Witty Banter.
Litany. Yeah, I do.
So let's skip what I'm up to and go straight to what you've got going on.
Yeah. So my stories. So normally it's my family pitching for stories. Yeah, but actually Carson's aunt came over and visited over the weekend, and she had a great story. This really cracked me up. So this is Carson's aunt. Her parents are Carson's grandparents. Okay. You get the idea, yeah?
Yep.
How this works. And she was clearing out their attic. Now, Carson's grandfather worked for Kodak his entire life.
Oh.
And so this family have photos. Like, they have photos like no other family, you know.
I bet like no other family.
Right, because, I mean, basically to them, film and photographs were free, you know, so they just did it all the time. And she was going through a box of photographs because there are tons of boxes of photographs in this family.
As she would
do. And she found a photo of her father, Carson's grandfather, who, by the way, who died only very recently. I knew him very well. He's a terrific guy. Getting married to a woman who was not his wife.
What?
I know. And he and his wife, Carson's grandparents, got married when they were like 20. There was no time for this to have happened.
Is there a story behind how this did happen?
I mean, my aunt at the time was absolutely gobsmacked, as you would be yourself. Like, what on earth is this? And she didn't. She pondered what to do for a little while because she was like, "Does my mother know about my father's first wife?" You know?
Right. Yeah. Logical question.
Right. And eventually, she broached the subject with her mother.
Who is still alive, I guess.
Who at the time was still alive. Yeah, they were both still alive. Yeah, they were both there.
Oh, okay. This isn't a recent finding.
This is not a recent finding. This was okay. They've both passed away since then, but at the time they were both alive. And her mother cracked up laughing and laughed and laughed and laughed. It turned out it was an advertising campaign for Kodak, and he actually modelled as the husband of this woman. So it was total fake.
It was really convincing advertising.
Well, it would be. It was a photograph of him getting married to another woman. but there was never in her childhood has this come up that this advertising campaign had used him. I mean, he was tall, good-looking fella. I can kind of see why they chose him. But
imagine that conversation between Carson's aunt and grandmother. Like, Mom, I need to sit you down. I need to have a very... Was Dad married before he met you? What are you going on about? Well, I found this photo. Wow.
That really thrilled me. I was very happy about that.
Yeah, that is something.
So, my other funny story from this week was that I went to Home Depot. This latest in a occasional collection of stories called Simon and Home Depot.
Did you use the app?
I didn't use the app this time. I went in person. A contractor that I was working with said, Simon, I need 5 2-inch by 6-inch by 10-foot planks bringing to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Home Depot, I can go and I can buy a pot of paint or an item off a shelf, but wood?
That's out of your comfort zone, I guess.
By a long way. So I went around the store looking for the most likely person working there. No, I didn't want the first person working there. I wanted someone who looked like he might be sympathetic. Yeah. So I found this guy, and I said to him, he obviously was expecting me to say, "Where can I find the fill in the blank?"
Yes.
But instead, I said to him, "Okay, first of all, I don't know anything." Okay.
Good start. Good icebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, okay, level set. I got it. And I told him what I wanted. And he said, "Oh, it's right here." And he took me, because I could tell what end of the store I wanted.
Right, yeah. The wood end that has all the wood
that I never go to is where I needed to be. So I moved that way, but then that's where all the tattooed guys are and tough guys. That's the end of the store where the pickup trucks are parked outside. I don't go anywhere near that place. And so the guy said, "Oh, what you want is right here." He said, "This is the stuff." He said, "It's pre-treated, so you can just use it directly." I was like, "Oh, great." I said, and I just put it in the car and take it up to the front and pay for it. He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, that's like shopping. I've done that before." He was like,
what did you think the alternative option was? You have to street fight for the wood?
It just seemed like too big of a deal to be like lifting the wood off the shelf and taking it.
Well, they do have a checkout at that end of the store.
They do. That's
I assume you went to the one. I think you. There's only one between us. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no. I went to the one on Capitol, but it's the same. It's exactly the same setup.
Right.
It's,
sure.
Yeah. But again, checking out. I mean, they all know what they're doing. They're
right.
picking up the scan gun and scanning things. You know, like one thing I noticed was the 5 pieces of wood. They had a barcode on one end of the piece of wood.
Yeah,
I went back and forth from one end to the other end to the other end because I can't plan ahead. Yeah.
Yep. I was picturing 5 pieces of wood, each one alternating in the wrong direction.
Correct. It's exactly what they were doing. Yeah. Uh-huh. But then I noticed the guy next to me who had like a baseball cap and.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, you see. He scanned one thing that he had multiple copies of and then scanned it again and again and again and again.
Yes.
I was like, oh, you see? That's how the pros do it.
Yep. That you're showing your amateur nature right there.
Exactly. I mean, if it wasn't already clear to everyone.
You were like, you're at the checkout, like, do I just use the scanner on these things?
I blasted it in my eyes.
Is there a special way to pay for the wood?
I appreciate us recording a day early. That's very kind of you to do that. I needed this because tomorrow I'm going to go and see a band called Fishbone. You know me, I go to concerts.
You do. Unlike me, you are a frequent goer of concerts.
Yeah, I'm not a massive Fishbone aficionado. But I've been listening to them because I got tickets, and they sound like they're going to be an absolute riot. They're going to be really, really fun. But I was watching a YouTube video of one of their songs, and in the comments section, someone posted a very interesting factoid, which is: have you seen the movie Say Anything with John Cusack?
I remember it, yeah. I'm sure I've seen it. Haven't seen it in a while.
Remember the sort of like iconic scene is that he holds up the boombox.
Yeah, the boombox over his head.
His head, and he plays a song to his girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in the filming of the movie, it was a Fishbone song that was playing out of that boombox. But in post-production, they changed it to I think a Peter Gabriel song.
Yeah, I should know the song. I'm sure our listeners are shouting it out to us right now.
Yeah.
But
so I was like, well, that's a fascinating little fact. You know, I mean, who knows how big Fishbone could have been had that been used in that movie?
Who knows what would have happened to Peter Gabriel?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Peter Gabriel would be like busking on the streets while Fishbone are flying around the world in private jets.
Right.
But so I was at a party on Friday evening, and a friend was there, and I was talking to the friend, and I mentioned that I was going to see Fishbone. Okay, and I didn't say the rest of that story. I just mentioned I was going to see Fishbone. He's like, oh yeah. He said, hey Simon, are you interested? There's a retrospective next week of the movie Say Anything, and John Cusack is in town and he's going to introduce it.
You're like, how? I
was like, why did you say
make that connection?
Why did you just say what you just said? He said, I don't know. It just came to my mind, and I told him then what I just learned. That
wait. He didn't know?
I didn't tell him. So I didn't know why he suddenly said that. I mean, the conversation moved on and that was the next thing he said. And as I said it to him, he's like, oh, I think I knew that. That's why I said it. That's what made me leap to that.
Wow. Yeah.
I was as mind blown as you are right this second. But yeah.
What random coincidence otherwise.
Because I said to him, why did you just talk about John Cusack and didn't say anything? And he was like, I don't know, it's just something that occurred to me. And then I told him,
wow.
Like, yes, I think I'd heard it. So
yeah, it's almost like your dream with the Maesters.
A little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, subconsciously there was a connection there in his mind.
Let's get down to business. How did we leave Cersei Lannister? Well, last time we saw Cersei, she was imprisoned in the Great Sept of Baelor, being broken down by her jailers, 3 septors within whom the milk of kindness has well and truly dried up. Confessing the less egregious of her legion of sins to the High Septon, and receiving slightly gentler confinement thereafter. She's visited by Kevan Lannister. He's a sight for sore eyes, but he doesn't offer very much comfort. No sign of Jaime, who apparently has run off with Brienne. News of sellswords landing to the south, unmolested because Mace Tyrell's armies had left the field when Marjorie was arrested, and Myrcella has lost an ear in Dorne. That terrible piece of news is leavened somewhat by word of Aris Oakheart's death, creating an opening in the Kingsguard. She, Cersei, beseeches Kevan to let Qyburn fill the vacancy. Not Qyburn directly, but let Qyburn choose the Kingsguard.
Right, that's a good clarification.
And how did you defend the king? Well, I gave his potential assassin a very slow-moving poison. Why don't we give the summary of this one?
Okay. Well, Queen Cersei must do a walk of atonement for the sins that she's confessed to, pending trial by combat to determine her guilt for those she's denied. The night before, she can't sleep. She tries to push away the foreboding. Guards will be keeping the crowds back, but she recalls the bread riots when a fully clothed, lawless Stokeworth had so inflamed the mob that they raped her 100 times, despite Goldcloaks guarding the entire route. What might Cersei in all her pulchritude do to the mob? She paces her cell, remembering the caged lion that lived beneath Casterly Rock when she was a child.
She recalls reaching through the bars and the lion licking her hand. Braver than Jaime. She's anxious for dawn. It will all be over by nightfall. She'll endure. It was her way back to Tommen, her only way if her uncle was to be believed. She could change her mind, insist on a trial, but that route might work for Marjorie Tyrell, beloved and popular, but Cersei has so few friends in the faith that she dare not. Trial by combat is her only hope of redemption. Jaime cannot help, but if she can get back to the Red Keep, she might find a champion.
Only her pride is at stake, not her safety, but she still hopes that Jaime might ride to her rescue. Her jailers arrive, one last humiliation. They shave her head. Okay, one extra one. They also shave all the rest of her body as well. She silently promises revenge on the Septas. She's given a robe for the walk through the Sept. She'd arrived as a queen in a litter, and she was leaving bald and naked, but she was leaving. A dozen warriors' sons, led by Theoden the True, are to escort her safely across the city. Lancel Lannister is amongst them, her blood and her betrayer.
They leave the Sept, and Cersei blinks in the light as she recalls Ned's death here, and all that it has wrought upon her and those she loved. She's standing in the very same spot, but now the mob is staring only at her. The Septors announce the Walk of Atonement to the crowd. Cersei recalls her grandfather's mistress being expelled from Lannisport as soon as the old man died. She had been cast naked into the streets. Cersei had heard the stories of how the woman had wept and begged, but Cersei is made of stronger stuff and will not cringe. She shrugs off her robe. It takes all her strength of will not to cover herself. She balls her fists and raises her chin and begins to walk.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Shouts of "Whore!" bounce off her. The Septas keep pace, chanting a litany of shame. Rotten vegetables are also hurled her way. As they descend Visenya's hill, she steps in something slippery. Yonella suggests she keeps her eyes downcast. The road narrows and the crowds grow thick, so progress is slow. A dead cat is thrown and bursts, smearing her legs with viscera and maggots. Halfway down the hill, she slips and falls. Theoden urges her along faster. She cuts her foot on broken crockery, but she limps on and the road widens at the foot of the hill.
Now the shouts get more hurtful about her appearance. She begins to see faces she recognizes in the crowd. Tywin, Ned, Melara Heatherspoon. Every child becomes Tyrion. She even sees Joffrey. She falls again. Now she must climb Aegon's Hill. The jeers become cruder still, encompassing the sins that she is not atoning for because she denied them. She realizes that the spell has broken. They will never see her as a queen again. She rubs her eyes and sees the hag prophesying that she'd be queen until a younger, more beautiful one takes all she loves from her.
That brings the tears for real. She covers herself as best she can and runs, getting ahead of the guards. She falls twice more, then crawls like a dog. Then there's no crowd, just the castle gates. Kevin is there with the King's Guard. He orders her covered. A shadow covers her, and she is lifted by a giant. She thinks she must be dreaming, but no. Her 8-foot-tall savior is real. A colossus with a great helm and a white cloak. Qyburn materializes and introduces Sir Robert Strong.
Yeah.
Well, that was painful. That was a painful, hard scene to watch unfold.
Yeah. It was.
Even for someone so unlikable and awful as Cersei.
Exactly. I mean, I actually wanted to say that we're going to talk lightheartedly and probably flippantly about what's happened here, but we do realize that, you know, I hope that you realize, dear listener, that we're not part of that braying crowd. We absolutely recognize that basically this is a sexual assault that's being committed against her.
Sure.
And no amount of animosity that we might feel towards Cersei even remotely justifies this treatment, you know?
Yeah. It's understandable that she has the flashbacks to the bread riot because she was also involved in that. And it's kind of a similar situation, being exposed to an angry mob on all sides. But
you know what? This is where I'm going to sound like what I just said. I'm going to undermine what I just said because she was extremely unconcerned for Lolis Stokeworth.
Excellent point.
She never cared. She never gave a rat's. And now she cares because it's happening to her. And so this is why it's hard to feel all the human sympathy one should feel for Cersei.
Yes, very true. Now, it is also worth reminding us all that bread riot was caused by her poor governance.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah.
You know, that's...
Normally, when the royal family take a stroll through the streets of King's Landing, one could assume you'd get a sort of like, hey, the royal family are here. But not when Cersei's in charge, because the people are starving.
Yeah. So, there's a scene where she thinking back, it's at the beginning of the chapter where she's pacing the room, her cell, and it reminds her of the lion, or maybe there were multiple, but
I think there were multiple lions.
Lion, caged in the deep in Casterly Rock, that used to, would pace their cages, and she thinks about how she and Jaime would dare each other to get closer and closer to the cage and reach in the cage, and she actually puts her hand in the cage, touches the lion, and the lion turns around and licks her hand, and she doesn't pull it away until Jaime grabs her and yanks her away. And I just wondered if maybe that scene, that little bit of history about her, reveals something about her inner makeup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it does. That she's crazy.
Yeah. Now,
that's it. There's not a lot more than that. I mean, she's absolutely daft. I mean, fearless for sure, but fearless beyond foolhardiness. I mean, that's a lion. Yeah. I mean,
kids
are stupid. Kids are stupid. It's
the
true,
age is not provided, so we don't know if she was 12 or 6.
But if they let her go down to the lions unattended, then she was old enough to know better. She was old enough to know what the lions would do to her,
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Did you ever watch Tiger King?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I that didn't convince me to be afraid of big cats. I already was.
Right. Just reinforced the existing
it very much reinforced. You can't be too careful.
Yeah. I mean, it just made me think, does she truly consider herself invincible and untouchable to the point where she would do something that reckless and dangerous and think, well, nothing can happen to me. I'm Cersei Lannister. I'm a lion myself. This lion wouldn't dare bite my hand off.
Yeah. I wonder if that feeling came to an end in this very chapter.
Maybe.
Because you're absolutely right. There is a common thread in her actions of invulnerability, of self-belief that she can get through this thing. And this chapter, if any event would ever disabuse you of that notion, it would be what she suffered this chapter.
Yes, we don't know every detail of her life, but I would have to assume this is the most humiliating,
right? I mean,
most demoralizing and just generally difficult thing she's ever had to go through. I will say, being married to Robert is probably humiliating in its own right because he was so unfaithful to her and such a terrible husband and father in general.
Yeah.
But in this scene, it's Jaime who has the sense enough to stop her, and he's the one that both siblings consider the impulsive one.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, you asked if this is a memory that reveals her true character. I think it also reveals a bit of Jaime's true character. Jaime is extremely brave and, in some respects, rash and foolhardy, but he isn't compared to Cersei.
Right. And she thinks to herself, I was always the braver one. I should have had the sword.
Yeah.
But maybe brave isn't the right word here.
Right. But the other thing to think about there is not so much maybe he was brave enough to do it, but he didn't want to goad her on to keep going. Oh. He loved her and wanted to protect her. That's why he pulled her back from the lion. And the last thing he wanted to do was match her, because then she would feel obligated to outperform him.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to put my head between the bars.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting that throughout this chapter, her sole focus, and basically the only thing that really gets her through the walk, is keeping her eyes on the Red Keep, where she knows her son Tommen is. I mean, that's, in some respects, her last child. I mean, Marcella's still alive, but she is distant and remote, and so Tommen is the only family member she has, and she gets through the walk by just laser focus. If I can get to the Red Keep, I'll get back to my son.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will, and we have said a lot of really negative things about Cersei, but there's no doubt that she loves her kids.
Right.
And if you remember back to our interview, our discussion with Dr. Honda, he felt like a lot of Joffrey's problems were because she was too attached to the point of detriment. Now, she was obviously at some level compensating for the awful, distant, abusive father that Robert was, and her biological father. We've been in Jaime's head. He has thought to us a bunch of times, yeah, I know they're my biological kids, but, I was happy to let Robert play father and me play uncle. He didn't really have any connection like that to them. So they were overindulged, entitled, and elite. And Tommen is very sweet, and he's also very young. And so we don't know what way he's going to go yet. We got a glimpse of Myrcella's treatment of the small folk in that chapter with Arya.
Yeah.
When she didn't realize
Tommen was there too, right?
Yes, and I can't remember if he had any disparaging remarks about the dirty little girl or not. Joffrey needed a...
It's funny that chapter stuck with us both.
Yeah. Well, there was so much, because that's also the chapter where she overhears Varys and Illyrio.
And yet here we are, remembering that very small scene where Myrcella
was condescending,
is snobbish towards her.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Joffrey, he needed a Ned-like strong guiding hand, and he didn't get that from Robert. He didn't get anything of use from Robert.
Do you blame Jaime for that? I mean, because it's very difficult for Jaime. He was in a difficult situation. He knew who the kid's father was, and he knew that the kid's father was not helping, and so he had an obligation perhaps to step in and be the missing father, but he couldn't do it because that would bring awareness to the fact that he was the father, and also he had other things that he had to do.
Yeah, you're right. He's in a tough position, and I also think, like I said a few minutes ago, I think he was perfectly fine with just letting things happen the way they were happening. I don't think he felt a whole lot of paternal instinct toward the kids.
Do you think that's a sign of how different he is from Tywin? Because I think that in that same position, Tywin would be reading bedtime stories to all three of those kids every night. And those bedtime stories would be about how Lannisters pay their debts.
Yeah, the raids of Castamere,
exactly.
The Tarbecks, and yes,
because all Tywin cared about was his legacy, and the continuation of the line. And Jaime, it's like 180 degrees different, because Jaime knew who these kids were, and he was like, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and even taking it even another step, Jaime was the heir, was Tywin's heir, and he cared so little about the family line that he took a theoretical vow of celibacy, and gave up any claims to any titles or lands that, he did have titles. He was the Warden of the East, I believe.
But that's doubly interesting to think about, because, of course, by doing that, he actually continued the line, which he wouldn't have been able to do, because if you remember, I mean, this is not stated as fact, but he becomes a Kingsguard to be close to Cersei.
Right. Yes.
And so because of that, he does actually propagate the line that he rejects.
Yeah, you're right. Just not in a way that his father would have ever wanted. Now, here's a bit of a cynical take on Cersei's obsession with getting back to Tommen.
He's next to her bath.
Yeah. He's killing two birds with one stone.
Right, exactly. My bath is right there next to my son.
Could her focus on Tommen also be a focus on a return to ruling, return to being the queen? There's a line, what made me think of it is there a line where she thinks that Tommen is a good little king, he'll do as he's told, and it just reminded me that the regency of Tommen is basically a blank check to rule. He's not going to push back. He's not going to want to do anything his own way like his brother. You have absolute authority over the realm while you're Tommen's regent. And we know that power has completely gone to Cersei's head. And we also know that Kevan says that he is going to send her back to Casterly Rock.
Right.
And would she be able to convince Tommen to overrule him as king?
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
Yeah. Or again, I put myself in characters' positions quite often and make different decisions than the characters. Would she think, well, I flew quite close to the sun and look what happened to me. Let's not try that again.
One, I think of many people would think, okay, yeah, I've got to change my ways.
Right.
I'm not sure Cersei is cut from that same cloth.
No, I'm willing to bet that she is not. That she will. She indeed has your idea in mind of getting more power back. But it's a tricky one because Kevan now has a lot of power right this moment. And to wrest that power from him won't be completely easy, because the thing is, if I'm Kevan, I say to Tommen, look, she is your regent, but you are the king and you make the decisions. If you appoint her back to be in charge, I'm leaving again. I won't co-run this realm with Cersei.
Right.
Yeah? She can be your mum, that's fine, but she can't be involved in these decisions because her decisions are bad. She will try to convince you otherwise, Tom, and I promise you, but don't do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You need me, you don't need her.
It's just a matter of whether little Tommen who he'll believe in a he said, she said situation like that.
Yeah.
But speaking of...
I would believe Kevan when he says, I'm leaving.
Yes, now that part for sure. Yes. But Cersei, as you said, Cersei would likely try and convince Tommen.
Yeah.
It's me. If I'm your mother.
If she isn't reformed by all this.
Yeah, and I guess my thought was, she certainly wants to get back to her son. She loves and misses her son, I'm sure. Yeah. But is there a bit in her mind that's also thinking, getting back to Tommen is the first step in getting back to my old position, I guess is.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you've been in jail for a couple of months and you would be thinking, I want to get back to Stacey and the kids. I love them so much. But you know what? You wouldn't mind the creature comforts of your home either.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying Cersei's wrong, you know.
But speaking of Kevan, she says she can't trust her Uncle Kevan. And for the most part, that is quite undeserving to a rational mind. She seems to believe that Kevan has conspired with the High Septon and Marjorie Tyrell to devise this walk. And, we go back to the heated exchange when she offered Kevan the hand of the king, and he said, no, I will only do it. I will only stay as regent, and you go back to Casterly Rock as your father intended. And he says, okay, well, if you won't, and she balks at that. And he's like, okay, fine. If you don't want to make me regent, then at least promote Randall Tarley or Mathis Rowan, Hand of the King. Because if you name either one of them Hand of the King, you're strengthening your own position and weakening the Tyrell's position, because you're taking a strong Tyrell person and making them your person.
Yeah.
And now she thinks that he is out to destroy her because of that, because now he has named the Reach Lords to lofty roles. Mace Tyrell is now Hand of the King. Randall Tarley, Master of Laws. Paxter Redwine, Master of Ships.
Oh,
and so
Kevan
she thinks he...
Kevan isn't Hand of the King?
No, he's the regent.
Oh, he's regent. Okay, sorry, yeah. I misspoke that earlier. Sorry, I'd forgotten that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's that.
Well, no, it's an important distinction because the regent is appointed and anointed. The Hand of the King is replaceable, but not anyone could be Hand of the King, but not everyone could be the regent.
Well, I guess that's true. Yeah, but she thinks that Cersei is betraying the Lannisters and Tommen by siding with the Tyrells because he's trying to work with the Tyrells, and she sees it as it's us against them. So she is convinced that he's a traitor and that he has taken gold from Mace Tyrell to be bought off.
Yeah. So you think that it's kind of confusing, the difference about what's going on with the walk versus the upcoming trial by combat? I think it's reasonably clear, right? She confessed to some things and denied other things.
Right.
What she confessed to was very selective and very low grade compared to what she denied. The low grade things she confessed to were sleeping with Lancel, sleeping with the Kettle Blacks, maybe planting the idea of murdering the previous High Septon.
I don't think she... I don't recall if she admitted to that specifically.
No, but I mean, she denied it. She denied murdering the High Septon, but I think she might have said, look, I'm surrounded by these idiots who fall for me and do whatever they think I might want,
Yeah.
That's my recollection of it, that she was like, they are trying to impress me by killing people. I'm not asking them to.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And so yeah, you are right. She is saying this walk is to atone for the things she admitted to. But she still has to face a trial for the things that for the crimes that she has denied.
Which, as I recall, was something along the lines of regicide and deicide.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And high treason, of course, yeah.
Yes. And so that's the distinction. She still has to do this walk to atone for the one she confessed to. She could have denied the walk and stayed in her cell until her trial. But she does this walk so she can basically get out. Yeah. Basically it's like being paroled. She does this walk. She gets paroled. She's allowed to go back home. And then she still has to face the trial to be proven guilty or innocent. I just felt like there was some things she was saying that was a bit confusing, where she was thinking, if I don't find a champion, this walk is the least of my problems.
Right. She actually thinks at one point that Marjorie is going to have not a trial by combat, but a real trial, because Marjorie is so confident. Well, I mean, Marjorie's confident of her innocence partly because she is innocent of the charges being laid against her, but also because she is popular and Cersei is not, and that's a good point.
Yes, and a lot of the accusations laid against her have been recanted. So,
right.
That certainly helps.
Yeah.
And I just point out that all these issues with the faith that she's dealing with were brought on by herself. She started it all by having Osney Kettleblack kill the previous High Septon because she didn't trust him because he was appointed by Tyrion.
Yeah.
So enter the new High Septon with a huge backing of small folk, because of the poor treatment that they've been receiving, especially in the Riverlands. And then she refuses to honor the debts of the crown, which anger both the Iron Bank, but also the faith. And so the faith refused to bless Tommen as king. And in an attempt to smooth things over for the stopped payments and earn the blessing from the faith, she allows the High Septon to revive the faith militant, totally ignorant to the problems that the faith militant have caused previous rulers. And now she's learning the pitfalls of allowing the rearming of the faith. Mm-hmm. And that's not even to mention all the other self-caused issues. That's just specifically the ones here with the faith.
Yeah. But if the tables turn again, the three Septors who abused her so horribly throughout this are going to regret what they did. I mean,
Yes.
They're working on instructions to a certain extent, but Cersei doesn't care about those kind of distinctions.
No, there is a very dangerous thought she has when she laughs after she's been shaved, and Scholera says, "Do you find this amusing, your grace?" And verbally, Cersei says, "No, Septa," but inside she thinks, "I'm going to have your tongue ripped out with hot pincers, and I'm going to find that hilarious." And let's face it, the only thing standing between these septas and a date with Qyburn is Kevan and Kevan's rule.
Well, yes and no, because Kevan can't undo what Cersei's done. The Faith and the High Septon.
That is true. Yes. A lot of power now. Yeah.
They have a lot of power. Even if Cersei retakes the power, I'm not sure she can turn the tables on the Faith anymore. They are what they are now, and you're going to have to live with it for a generation.
Unless she, now knowing what she's up against, takes a very different tact of how to remove this High Septon.
Very much like the one she took last time.
Yes, maybe. Okay. Yes.
Just sleep with some guys and sort of hint at that's what you would like as a thank you.
Lancel is also part of the Warrior Sons, which is a group of Warrior Sons are Cersei's escort on this walk here. He is also separated from Qyburn's a meeting with Qyburn by Kevan in the current High Septon situation, and she thinks to herself when she sees him and thinks, "My blood and my betrayer," she will not forget him.
Oh yeah.
And so
I don't think she's talking about her Christmas card list.
No, probably not. Mm-hmm. So for all involved, they better hope that Kevan is true to his word and sends her back to Casterly Rock as soon as possible, really.
So as the walk begins, she's in front of the Great Sept of Baelor, which is where Ned was beheaded, and she has an interesting moment of reflection on that. She does blame Joffrey, which is not totally unreasonable, and certainly she sees how that one event set in motion all that has followed. But I did wonder if a bit more self-reflection might have led to Robert's death as being the first domino to fall.
Yeah.
Because if Robert had been king at that moment, that beheading wouldn't have happened. And
yeah. But the problem, I had that same thought, and it did all begin with the first. Well, we go all the way back. It begins with the killing of Jon Arryn.
Jon Arryn. Funnily enough, I thought about Jon Arryn. I was like, but in some ways, the killing of Jon Arryn is a discrete moment because, sure, it brought Ned to King's Landing, but none of what happened subsequently needed to happen, but for the deaths of Robert and Ned.
Yeah, if Jon Arryn hadn't died, he would have discovered the same thing he would have divulged the same thing that Ned was threatening to divulge, or not threatening, saying, "I'm going to divulge to the king when he returns," which is that your children are not his, they are your brother Jaime's. And so if Robert had survived, there would have still been problems for Cersei.
Okay,
because
let's go back a few more years. It was the sleeping with Jaime and having his children. That was the first domino.
Right. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. But yeah, she does think about how different everything would have been if Joff just had done as he was told. Right. Ned lives. I mean, let's play it out. Ned lives. He joins the Night's Watch. He forbids his son Robb from marching south and claiming the king in the north.
Why would Robb march south if Ned is just headed to the wall?
Yeah, even though I'm sure Robb knows that the treason charge against his father is false, but he's still not going to march on King's Landing because of that.
He will just be an unhappy liege lord, vassal.
Right. Yes. And so Robb stays in the north. The Ironborn don't invade the north because there's no mass exodus of leaders and soldiers. And hey, the Night's Watch probably get an excellent possible future Lord Commander. Jon serves with his father in the Night's Watch, possibly learns his mother's identity as they spend more time together. So
yeah.
Instead, the whole realm suffered. We come full circle here because now Cersei is the center of this mob's frenzy, just as Ned was when this whole part all kicked off.
Yeah. And it's at this point that she starts to hope that Jaime might still, against all odds, appear to save her. But it appears that Kevin's intelligence that he was off in the Riverlands with Brienne might be true, or true enough to mean that he's not coming, but doesn't stop Cersei from hoping it.
Yeah, it tracks. Last we saw Jaime, he was talking to Brienne about going off and saving the Stark girl from the Hound, which
Kevin is reading the same book we are.
Yeah, as we discussed at the time, that doesn't make any sense. But we know that that Lady Stoneheart forced Brienne to kill Jaime. So whatever she's up to.
I would hope if something's happening there that we'd get either a Brienne or a Jaime POV to tell us.
Would be real nice. Yeah. Yes, that would be real nice. Yeah. But I was wondering how would Jaime feel if he survives whatever Lady Stoneheart has planned for him? How will he feel when he discovers the ordeal that his twin sister and lover just faced, that he burned the letter that she said, please, come help me. I need you like never before. He burned it with no reaction.
That is a great question that I had not thought about. I think he will be split on that, because on the one hand, he will be like, my God, that woman brought all this on herself.
Yep.
But on the other hand, if he'd been within 100 miles of that, he would have ridden his horse to death to stop it.
Yeah, I think so. I think even though he burned that letter with no reaction, had he known that this specific event, I don't think he would have just sat back and let it happen.
Right.
I wonder if when he does find out, if he will lash out at Kevin for allowing and being part of this whole situation.
I don't know. I think Jaime's too cool-blooded to do that. He might blame Kevin, but he's not going to lash out at him, I don't think. He'd be like, in a moment of reflection over a late night brandy, he might say, I think you should have done more for Cersei in that situation. And Kevin might say, I think she really, really needed to learn the hard lesson.
Yeah, that's...
And you know what?
I mean,
at that point, I think Jaime would have swirled his glass and gone, you might be right, Kevin.
With the little tinkling of the ice against
No, you don't put ice in brandy, Philistine.
Oh, I don't know. I don't drink brandy. I have no idea. What do you put ice in then? I don't know.
Everything else. Just not brandy.
Just not brandy. Okay. I think previous Jaime, two-handed Jaime, might have lashed out at everyone he could lash out at. Newly evolved, Brienne influenced Jaime might react differently.
Yeah. So one of the things that Cersei uses to sort of arm herself against this walk is the memory of her grandfather's mistress, who upon her grandfather's death was forced to walk naked through the streets of Lannisport, yes. I get a little bit confused about that. There's a little pedantry coming on that particular question later on, which I'm hoping you're prepped to answer me up. But she, as Cersei did not witness this, but she heard stories that she wailed and screamed and sort of begged everyone for protection as she was forced to walk through. Cersei is not going to be like that. Yeah, that all tracks perfectly. But I'd like to point out that is a very Tywin Lannister thing to do, to take your father's mistress, who comforted him in his later days, and make her walk naked through the streets of the city.
Yeah, in background, we will delve into the
let's leave
it
details. For that then. Let's leave it for that. But all right. So the walk, I will say, and I'd like you to sort of weigh in on this, and I will say, for once, I solicited a female opinion on this before I.
All right.
I talked to Carson about it.
Okay. So we have an actual informed opinion instead of our...
I mean, it's not that informed. She spent like 30 seconds going, whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole walk goes the opposite direction to the way I thought it would. Cersei starts the walk pretty confidently, striding through the city, but she gets more and more tentative as the insults and jeers pick away at her mental armor.
Yeah.
And my guess, and again, I am a man, she's a woman, is that you'd start utterly mortified by what's going on, and then you'd assimilate with what's going on and become like, by the time you get to the keep you waving and laughing with people, that basically it's that habituation thing. We've talked about habituation before on the podcast, I believe, that you just get used to it. Like, it's going to take me a couple of hours to walk across the city like this. I'm mortified right now. By the time I get there, I'm going to be like, hey, how are you? Yeah. That is the meat and two veg. You're right.
And what was Carson's take?
Carson's take was, she thought that would probably be the same for her too. That she'd be more mortified at the beginning, but the habituation would kick in.
I think maybe it would have gone that way more so if it hadn't been for the crowd.
Because the crowd got rowdier. He makes the point.
It worked into a frenzy.
Makes the point that the route they took did not take them through Flea Bottom. And so the citizens of Flea Bottom came around to meet her on the walk back up Aegon's Hill. So as the walk went further, the crowd got more and more low class and bawdy and rude.
And closer, because the streets got narrower. And so they were... The warriors' sons and the poor fellows were having trouble keeping the crowd back. And so... My thought is, I see what you're saying, and I think in an ideal situation, it might go that way. But I think she reached a point of mental exhaustion. She couldn't...
Fighting against it for that long. I hear you.
And I could see that. I'm not saying that only she would have that issue. I think I might have that issue as well, is I can't take it anymore. I'm at my breaking point. I'm going to start running now.
And full march. I mean, this is a chapter that I didn't have to read to remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pretty memorable scene what happened here.
Absolutely.
And so my going into reading the chapter, I was like, why did she go in this direction? But I will give George Martin credit. It fell the way he described it made logical sense for her. It just was. If I was him, my first thought would have been to have it go in the opposite direction, from confident to from nervous to confident, rather than the way it did. But it was entirely correct with the way he wrote it. That's the way it went for her.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issue is that she starts to realize the impact that this walk is going to have on how she is seen by these people.
What she hears are horribly hurtful to herself, especially someone who's been beautiful all her life. She hears personal insults about her body, and that's gotta hurt, especially when you've been so closeted. But when you've been both beautiful and closeted, so that A, one look in the mirror makes you believe you're beautiful, and B, everyone tells you you're beautiful, and then suddenly you've got these thousands of people laughing at your body. That's gotta hurt.
Absolutely.
That's gotta hurt.
I'm sure that's a big part of the exhaustion that she was
that's where the exhaustion comes from. But you're right. The real crumble was I've made a terrible mistake, because these people feared and respected me as the queen, and now they're never, ever going to see me as that again. There's no way.
Yes. And I think that's true.
They see me as their sister, their mother.
Yes. And I think that's true for the people who are in attendance. You're torn down off your lofty perch, stripped naked, and smeared in who knows what. The illusion that she's better than them is harder to keep at this point. Yeah. And I'm sure as she is walking, especially as she goes on, it must feel like all of Westeros is there watching her, when in reality, it probably was only a small portion of King's Landing.
Yeah, but you know what? Some Simon Silvertongue is there writing a song about it this second.
Yes, I forgot about singers. You know that's true. Yes. I was thinking that few, if any, lords and knights probably actually witnessed the event, and
they're gonna hear
Kevin
about
says
it.
her role is over. Maybe if she stays out of the spotlight, people will forget. But you're right. Songs are going to be written about her. Yeah.
Did you also get a sort of Passion of the Christ vibe to the whole thing as well?
I didn't until you mentioned it, and now I see. Yeah.
So according to,
see the connection.
I don't know the religious breakdown of our listeners, so I'll mention that according to Christian teaching, Jesus suffered his bruising walk to his death and resurrection so that everybody's sins could be forgiven. Cersei is doing it so that her sins will be forgiven. It very much tracks with Cersei, that it's about her, not others.
Of course, yeah.
And then she falls, and Jesus was supposed to fall 3 times on his walk. She falls 4 times, I believe, in total. But is George Martin hinting at her resurrection? Like you said, is she actually going to come back just as strong, as big a political player as she was before?
Yeah, or is she being resurrected into a different person, as Jaime has somewhat done since he lost his hand?
For the better? Yes, Jaime, but Cersei? Could she get better? Is there a redemption?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, the Jaime early in A Feast for Crows was nearly as awful as Cersei.
Yeah.
Pushing Jenny's listening right now, and she's shouting, "He pushed an 8-year-old out a window."
Jenny's listening right now. We got to mention he did push an 8-year-old out of the window. the old Stones maxim.
Yes. So if he can go through something, and he's still on an arc, but become on the other side better for it, I think it's less likely. I think Cersei is generally more selfish and self-centered than Jaime, but I'd say it's possible.
Yeah. So as she collapses mentally on this walk, she sees a bunch of people in the crowd who obviously aren't there. Most of them are dead, but with the exception of Tyrion, I think. Were there any other living ones?
We've got Tywin. Oh no, Sansa. We've got Tywin, and then Ned and Sansa, and possibly Lady. There's a little girl sitting with a dad and has a shaggy dog, I think a gray dog, and she thinks she sees Ned, Sansa, and Lady.
Well, Lady is
Tyrion. Dead. Yes, sadly. Tyrion she sees in all the little kids, and then Melara Heatherspoon.
Now help me out. Let me guess who Melara Heatherspoon was. She was the girl who she went to see the hag with.
One of the 2 girls.
One of the 2 girls. And is she the one who died soon afterwards?
Yes. And that's why the line is that Melara Heatherspoon is staring at her with accusing eyes. And there's no concrete evidence for this, but she asked the hag if she would marry... Her name... Maggie the Frog. She thinks of her as the hag. Yeah.
She called her the hag in this chapter, and then I could not remember what she was called after that.
Maggie the Frog is what she is called. She asked Maggie, "Am I going to marry Jaime?" And she said, Maggie said, "No, your death is here in this room with us tonight." And then she mysteriously fell in a well and died. And there's some conjecture that might Cersei have had something to do with that. You don't get to ask about marrying my brother lover.
Right.
So maybe that's what the accusing eyes are in reference to.
Yeah.
But speaking of the hag, Maggie the Frog, she gives the prophecy. She's the last.
She's the last.
She is the yes, and she's the final straw before the tears start to flow and Cersei begins to run. And she gives her prophecy of you'll be queen until a younger, more beautiful casts you down and takes all that you hold dear. And Cersei's always assumed that it's Marjorie. We have a little bit more of a global perspective than Cersei does.
True, yeah.
We know that it very well could be Daenerys Targaryen that is the younger, more beautiful queen that will tear her down and take all that she holds dear. But I was thinking, could it be someone we haven't considered? And so I was coming up with a list. Sansa, Arya, her own daughter Myrcella, possibly Shireen Baratheon. But one that I thought of because of her
Can I just interject on this before you go to this extra one? Whenever you do a list like this, I'm like, come on, Mackelly, you're just groping at straws. This is clear who it's being talked about here. But that's a really good list. Well done. And there's one more.
Well, because of her association with Maggie the Frog, and Maggie the Frog saying, until a younger, more beautiful woman casts you down and takes all that you hold dear, could it be Jane Westerling Stark? Robb Stark's widow and the great-granddaughter of Maggie the Frog. She married a king. What if she is carrying his son?
Whoa.
And I don't know how it would all work out, but...
Okay, when I edit this, I'm going to put what I said before now.
Because that was a ridiculous option. It's just odd that Martin would connect Maggie to Jane for no reason.
Yeah.
And is Jane's story just at an end with Robb? Robb died and that's it? There's nothing more there. So it's just conjecturing of my own here.
Ah. Well, man, I can't wait to read that book.
Maybe I'll get it published before Winds of Winter comes out.
And so, of course, at the end, she's carried by Sir Robert Strong, the new member of the Kingsguard. That's a dream come true. That's gonna. Right at that moment, she's at the lowest possible ebb, but right then she gets lifted up by an 8-foot tall behemoth wearing a white cloak who has already won your trial by combat. There's no way that guy's losing.
Yeah. So the mystery of Qyburn's need for absurdly large armor has been explained.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he doesn't speak. And Qyburn says that he's taken a holy vow of silence until all of Tommen's enemies are dead and evil has been driven from the realm, which I guess explains he's sort of wearing some holy elements to his garb. He's got rainbow plumes sticking out of the top of his great helm, and 7-pointed stars clasp his cloak. And those are not general requirements of the Kingsguard, I don't believe. So
interesting.
So I guess that explains why he's not able to talk.
Or he doesn't have a mouth.
Yeah, so only one man fits the size description that we've met in this whole story.
Please, sir.
Yes,
it's the mountain.
Yes, you. You're right. He was last seen with Qyburn.
Yes, he was last seen with Qyburn. That's what I was going to say.
Now, supposedly his skull was sent to Sunspear.
Yeah. He's got a great helm.
But we do know that... right. He has a great helm. We do know that Qyburn lost his maester's chain for dabbling in things like necromancy and death and life and all of that. Could he be successful in some sort of necromancy with the mountain's body and sent his head to Sunspear?
I'm doing hand motions of exactly, Mackelly, exactly what you're saying. So,
yeah, well, we don't know, but
it
that is
seem likely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. It's time for some spoilers. Remember, you can get the spoilers if you join the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainers, and you can try any tier for a week for free. Excellent spoilers. All right. How about some background? You promised me something here.
Yeah, I did. I better pay it off here. So, all right. So Cersei thinks of her grandfather's mistress facing a similar walk as Cersei, like we were talking about earlier. She compares her own stoicism, if only for a time during her walk, to that of this woman's frantic cries and pleas for help. So let's dig into Lord Titus's love life a bit. So Titus married Jane Marbrand in 235 AC. A year later, Titus, the third-born son of Lord Gerald, became heir to Casterly Rock when his older brother died in battle. He actually had 2 older brothers that died in battle. Titus and Jane had 5 kids, Tywin being the oldest. Sadly, Jane died about a month after giving birth to Jerion in 255 AC. Eventually, Titus fell in the arms of his son's wet nurse, often preferring to be with her rather than fulfill his duties as Lord of Casterly Rock. But at some point, That mistress was replaced by his second mistress, the one that Cersei thinks of on her walk.
Right.
So this second mistress was an attractive daughter of a candle maker, and Lord Titus began to treat her as more than just a mistress, allowing her to boss around the household knights and staff, sit in attendance while he was away, and even taking counsel in matters of rule. The mistress wore his late wife's jewelry and clothing, which surely didn't sit well with Tywin. So when Titus died of a heart attack and Tywin became Lord of the Rock, things changed quickly for the mistress. Cersei told us of how Tywin had stripped her and paraded her through the streets of Lannisport. What she left out is that this went on for 2 weeks before she was eventually sent into exile.
So it didn't get better for her. She was then sent into exile after the 2 weeks. So.
Yes. I can't even imagine how that happens for 2 weeks. Does she come home somewhere and like stay the night in a cell or something? Gets back up.
Hey, look, it's the naked lady.
Yeah, at some point she's just the naked lady wandering the streets of Lannisport.
Well, good background. Thank you.
Pretty awful though. You know.
Yeah,
it's you're right. It's very Tywin. It is very. He's so. Yeah, it fits him well.
And we're not done with that because we're coming back to it in pedantry.
Okay.
Comparison with the television show, very much kept.
Yes.
A couple of observations. The show gets this wrong, I think. So in the show, she keeps a stoic face until she's beyond the guards at the gate of the Red Keep. But then she breaks down. And to me, that's qualitatively different than the book.
Yeah.
The book, she broke down in front of the crowd. The people saw her lose her mask.
That is a difference.
And I think the show got it wrong by doing that. I think it just misses the key point. Kevin is there to welcome her, but it's Qyburn who speaks to her. Kevin never says a word in that scene. Qyburn is the one who says, "You're back, you're safe. You know, so let me tend your feet." Puts a blanket around her and what have you.
Okay.
But then when she's picked up by Robert Strong, he says exactly the same words as he does in the book, that he's taken a vow of silence. So that whole, the reason this guy can't talk is explained away.
Okay. Not that he's missing a head.
No.
Or whatever.
Well, in the show, the skull was never sent to Dawn. So you can actually see his eyes. They're bloodshot and ugly looking. By the way, I watched the Icelandic guy who played him lift 1,200 pounds, 510 kilograms. Just
Hafthor Bjornsson.
Hafthor Bjornsson, yeah.
Yeah.
Because occasionally, whenever we have a mountain thing, I like to go and watch that again. Good grief.
Full Thor. He should just be full Thor, not half Thor.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, pedantry corner. So she's shaved head to toe. She's shaved. So
right.
And they talk about she asks for shoes, and she isn't given shoes to walk because you weren't born with shoes. And then it made me think, well, are they shaving her so she looks like a baby? But babies quite often born with a full head of hair. It's not.
You're absolutely right.
Unusual.
Yeah.
But then I did read it carefully, and they didn't actually say they were shaving her for that. That was just gratuitous humiliation, I think.
Yeah.
She couldn't have any clothing of any sort because of you have to be as you were born. The shaving was just to humiliate her.
Just to humiliate her.
To rob her of her crown, as she thought of it, you know.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent.
All right, so explain the Lannisport thing to me here, because I was expecting her to get whipped naked through the streets of Casterly Rock, but she was whipped naked through the streets of Lannisport.
Here's the problem, is that Casterly Rock and Lannisport, it's not like the Red Keep and King's Landing.
Right.
It's removed from
They
Lannisport.
are two different towns, right?
Yes, so, one is basically just a big rock that has been turned into a castle. There's not a lot of, to my understanding, not a lot of streets and places for her to be paraded through.
I see. There is no city there. It's more a rock with a castle.
Yes, rock as a castle. Yeah,
the rock as
I understand it anyway, which would explain why she was paraded around.
Because really,
Lannister.
Otherwise she'd just be on the rock with the goats, and
Yes.
it's not much of a humiliation, really. You know,
She'd just be walking around a big rock, I guess. They could have paraded her through the castle, I guess, through the rock.
That makes a lot more sense now. Thanks. All right, I take it back. Not pedantry. All right, news and notes. You have a good one, actually. This was a good one.
Yeah. So to celebrate the 15-year anniversary of the first season of A Game of Thrones, which is hard to believe that it's been so long, HBO released a video of many of the key cast members saying their goodbyes, and it's really sweet and worth a watch, and it's available on YouTube. At least that's where I found it. And
you're struggling now because that last sentence was only about me, so I watched it per your suggestion just before we started, and I was like wiping away tears afterwards. I was like, oh my god!
That's why you've been clearing your throat so much. You got your sinuses flowing.
I mean, it must have been just an epic thing to have been involved in. You know, how could you not?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, think about it. You just changed jobs recently, and you were at our job together for as long as it took Game of Thrones to make, and so your last day was quite emotional, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still am not recovered from and I think Kit Harington summed it up best when he said, "This is the greatest
thing I'll ever be
professional." Yeah, exactly. You know, probably not speaking of his family, but professionally the greatest thing he'll ever be involved with. And there's the possibility that one of them might stumble onto something that is equally as great as Game of Thrones, because they're all amazing actors.
Yeah.
But chances are this will be the thing that most of them are remembered for.
Yeah, it would have to be some mega hit for them to be remembered for anything other than this, because this was so many of them made their names here.
Yeah, and so many of them started so young.
Right, yeah. Maisie Williams' goodbye speech is really moving because she's blubbing away.
Yeah.
So we got into a really interesting discussion about last week's episode where we were talking about the faces in the House of Black and White, and in particular the baby faces. What's the point of having a baby face?
Right. Yeah.
You're going to be a 6'4" strapping lad with shoulders and
with a baby
face of a baby.
It's a funny image.
It's not a very convincing.
Right.
But so V39 on the Discord server made the point that we were perhaps misunderstanding what the faces were in there for. That they are not necessarily all being kept for disguises, but they are sort of donations to the House of Black and White by people who are willing to make some kind of deal. And it actually it's an interesting discussion. I think you should all join the Discord server and have a look. But in particular, he suggested that there are two tiers of what's going on in the House of Black and White. There is the paid assassin thing, which Peter Baelish said was so expensive to hire an assassin from the House of Black and White. And then there's the we'll put you out of your misery thing, which they do pro bono, it seems.
Yeah. Or is it that it's so expensive, but not always necessarily financially so expensive? So maybe that's why there is baby faces. Maybe someone was so willing to go through with this transaction that they gave up a child for the service.
Yeah.
You know, something that's very precious to them.
But do you think, I mean, the House of Black and White doesn't seem to be a slaughterhouse. That's the bit that doesn't seem to ring true for me. It's like, it's not like, hey, will you go kill that guy here's my baby, you can kill that too.
Sacrifice my baby for it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting discussion, and he's got some very good thoughts on it. And I wish he'd been involved in the podcast last week, because now I think we would have had a more learned conversation if we'd included.
More nuanced than they have a dinner party where they wear the most outlandish faces. We might have been a little. I really enjoyed that discussion, and it did make me think. I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense, that there is other reasons to have, and it wasn't just the baby faces, but there's other reasons for these faces to be deep in their inner sanctum than just as masks for the faceless men.
And I think that's the key point. This is not just a
costume shop.
A costume shop, exactly. This is something more religious, and as he said, perhaps sacrilegious.
Right. Yeah. And he is also right. I noticed in editing of this week's episode.
You made a mistake, didn't you?
Yeah, I said Krieg and Stark. I meant to say Tor and Stark. In editing, I was like, there's nothing I can do about this now. It's just going to have to go out and be like when I confuse Sansa and Cersei all the time.
Yeah. I don't think you've done it tonight, but I mean, we'll see during editing.
Yeah.
All right, let's conclude this one. So, absolutely traumatizing for Cersei. But she is free, and in the arms of a seemingly invincible champion, she's got to feel a little bit good about her prospects. And actually, the TV show did a good job of that, because her face, as she's lifted off the ground by Robert Strong, is like, yeah,
right,
nailed it.
Yeah. Well, so there's a part where she's walking, and she thinks to herself, this is my penance. I have sinned most grievously, and this is my atonement. And I thought, is this a moment of true introspection? Is she actually thinking, is she admitting I've done these horrible sins?
She's not capable of it.
Right. Is she learning to be a better person? Then we've got the ripping the Septa's tongues out with hot pincers. That doesn't bode well for that possibility. And there's another line where she thinks, this is over soon, and then I can forget it.
Yeah.
Which makes you think, has she learned and regret nothing?
Yeah. That's
just get this over with.
That's what I think. Anything she says about atonement or penance is about she's talking herself through the process. I'll get through this. This is what I have got to do to get to the other side. This is what I've got to do to get to the other side. She does not have any feeling of. There is no genuine self-reflection or examining of her own conscience involved in this.
Yeah.
It's all just get to the next step.
I can see that. It'd have to be life-changing at some level. I mean, it's a life-changing experience, but whether for positive or negative, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. Maybe she can't see inside herself. She's not capable of seeing that she's been in the wrong and make changes one way or the other. It could just make her more angry and spiteful and retaliatory, I guess.
But if Strong were to win the trial by combat, she gets then cleared of her capital crimes. She can have a clean slate, and maybe she can start to pull the strings again. You know, but I will say, I do wonder. It seems to me that she was a better player of this game when she didn't directly have the power. She was subtle, clever, and effective when she was married to Robert. She got away with things. Right. She got her own way. When she truly took power, things started to go really haywire for everybody.
I think it's because her decisions were on display once she got the power.
Yeah.
The smallest council was her doing.
The
bread riots were her doing.
Yeah.
There were visible decisions she was making that you could be like, no, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah. It did feel like, I mean, I think we're pretty sure of this. There was a moment in the walk when she realized that this was a mistake. The bubble has burst and she can never go back. The process is irreversible. She's lost the people's fear and respect, which she needed.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, my first thought was, well, there's no TV coverage. I don't know that there's any news reporters here or not, but there actually is, and there are news reporters, and those are the singers. And you're right, the singers are who are going to keep this perpetuated. Otherwise, it will be remembered forever by those in attendance.
Yeah,
and the rest of the realm will hear the stories and laugh. And she may never regain the status that she had, but over time, people will begin to forget.
But knowing Cersei. she goes on a royal progress to the north. She goes to the Wall and visits and spends. She will look at all of those people looking at her, and she will think, they're thinking about that time I walked through King's Landing naked.
Yeah.
Even though they're 1,000 miles away and have never even heard of it.
That's very true. Yes. Yeah. That's just the way she thinks.
Yeah.
Do you think that because of the fact that she admitted to some of these crimes means that people will think that she is guilty of all of the crimes and start to believe that, put more stock in Stannis's letter that Robert's children aren't Robert's?
Hard to know, but certainly the crowd were throwing that accusation at
yes.
her. They weren't just limiting their shouts to the crime she'd admitted to.
Right.
All right. So next up we have a Tyrion, who presumably is in King's Landing laughing at Cersei.
I guess so.
Every child was him. There's 3 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold or become a sustainer at buymeacoffee.com/GhostHarrenhal. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the spoilers, which are still great, despite how little future things we have to go on. Mackelly's doing a good job of them.
Well, thank you.
You can try any of the sustainer tiers for a week for free. Or you could just make a donation directly to our cause at our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
You know, if Tyrion does end up here in King's Landing next week, that will be really interesting to see how George Martin pulled that one off.
Right.
If he really was the one running around. Yeah. She wasn't making that part up. Anyway, if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, one thing you could do is you could send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode's show notes. Just please keep in mind we have no means of responding, but we do enjoy reading them.
We got one today, didn't we? I think.
Yes, it was good. It was Seth laughing that I brought up my Thoros of Myr mistake that he pointed out last week.
There you
go. And if you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, I suggest you check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghosts Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.